Hey everyone, welcome back to Digitally Transformed. It's your host, Melissa. Let's get into it. Cybercrime reports have gone up over 300% in the last couple years, and a surprisingly large number of breaches happen with companies' employees involved, and that's often because of mistakes like falling for phishing baits. Any insider in the company can potentially be a point of vulnerability that can expose an entire network. So this is why Zero Trust model, which assumes a potential breach through anyone, inside or outside, is the strongest and best cybersecurity strategy today. But there are a lot of people who have some surrounding confusion about what Zero Trust really entails. So today we're going to do a rundown of what a Zero Trust framework is made of, as well as clarifying some of the things that it's not. So let's start with Zero Trust principles. There are 3 guiding principles of Zero Trust that sum up its practice within an organization. There's least privilege access, which means data should only be accessible by those who really need it, and only when they need to. The second type is explicit verification. So this is when identity needs to be verified every single time access is granted based on every individual data point. And the third is assumed breach. So this is a crucial shift in perspective in the Zero Trust framework. It is assuming that you have been or will be soon breached. This mentality puts you in a position of readiness to defend and respond to any attack. Okay, now let's talk about components of the framework. So there are particular areas that you need to give attention to when you are setting up a Zero Trust policy. These are the vital components to consider in your security framework. So the first is end users. It is very important to know your users' business roles and the requirements that apply specifically to them. So those working in different areas should have different requirements, and you'll need to group them accordingly. Make sure that you are clear about what access each group is going to have. Now, this is where we get into policy. This is a core part of your framework. Create an acceptable use policy that clearly defines what is allowed on company devices and what is not. Next, you have to set up identity. So this is setting up one centralized platform for identity and access management so that users can securely verify credentials for the access that they need to work. And last, governance. Make sure to update your existing business governing processes to align with your new Zero Trust strategy. Setting up multi-factor authentication, MFA, across all communication applications is going to give the organization a big security boost while also supporting new framework. Let's talk about some misconceptions around Zero Trust. So through the years that this security model has been around, there have been some varying thoughts that have turned into Zero Trust myths and misconceptions. And there are some of the misguided understandings that are surrounding it. So the first is that Zero Trust is a solution product. Rather than a product that you purchase, Zero Trust is a mentality and it's a framework. It's a philosophy of never trust, always verify. And there are various security products that can help you enact this philosophy, but they are not themselves Zero Trust. Regardless of what solutions you end up using, you need to continuously think through how you can best apply that framework's principles. So another misconception is that Zero Trust means that you have a lack of confidence in your employees. This security outlook of this philosophy may make it seem like employers are simply suspicious of their employees or they don't trust them, but the mindset of Zero Trust has nothing really to do with any particular employee, and it doesn't reflect their trustworthiness. Even unintentionally, every insider creates a vulnerability. Every single insider. No one is perfect. So by applying the policy to everyone across the organization, you're able to eliminate to try and figure out or judge who is vulnerable and who is not. Okay, another myth around Zero Trust is that you have to rip and replace. Starting a Zero Trust framework can appear daunting if organizational leaders think that they have to tear down what they have and start all over from scratch. But you can actually leverage existing solutions and technologies by just adding tools if necessary. John Kindervag, who's the one who started Zero Trust methodology, even states that deploying it one step at a time is best. Here's another myth, that small organizations don't need to implement it. While the strong cybersecurity measures of Zero Trust are pretty crucial for big corporations, this doesn't mean that smaller companies don't need it. About a third of data breaches in 2020 involved small businesses. Yeah, about 33%. And these smaller organizations are actually the biggest target of email phishing scams. Okay, here's the last myth. Zero Trust isn't meant for cloud environments. Many companies traditionally base trust on location. So what I mean by that is that those within the walls of the organization could be trusted, where those outside were potential threats. Clearly, that standard does not apply anymore since remote work has expanded those boundaries enormously. Zero Trust can be applied in any cloud environment, and it's more important than ever to do so. So let's talk about the 5 steps to deploy a Zero Trust framework. So setting up the Zero Trust can feel like a very big task. We get that. So here's a breakdown of the actions that are necessary to implement it. Tackling one step at a time makes it far more tangible and manageable and ensures that you're giving each one the attention that it deserves. So here are the 5 steps. The first is to define your most sensitive data. Start with the most confidential data in your organization and the applications and services that are around it. Once your Zero Trust model is established, you can continuously broaden the areas that you're protecting. Step number 2. Figure out your network's traffic flows. Take a look at traffic flows through your network so that you understand well where your vulnerabilities lie. Step number 3, develop your architecture. Once your prioritized data and traffic flows have been defined, you can build a custom plan made just for your organization. Step number 4, design your policy. A helpful way to create your policy is to work with your gathered information and apply the 5W 1H planning, which is also called the Kipling method, which basically means that you ask who, what, when, where, why, and how. So who needs access to what, when do they need that access, why, and so on and so forth. Okay, the 5th step in getting your Zero Trust set up is continuously monitoring your network. So watching your traffic after policies has been made is an ongoing part of staying on guard. So those are your 5 steps with getting set up with Zero Trust. And if switching to a Zero Trust model still feels like a lot to you, you are not alone. It's a lot of work. Let us know if we can help. It is our mission to empower companies to build the strongest foundations for success and growth. And look out for our podcast and blog post next week on the return on investment that you can get by adopting a Zero Trust framework. Hope that you enjoyed this today, and we will chat next week.